Welcome aboard, Nikhil Jefferson. It's a big-time commit, both literally and figuratively, for the Doors. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It's the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's show will feature a massive defensive line commit, and we're going to talk about what that means for Clark Lea's defense. Also, the men's hoops team picks up their first win over Missouri. So congratulations on that. And lastly, Carter Holton must have listened to Friday's episode because, well, his command is indeed back. We're going to talk about the most recent preseason scrimmages and some of the results and some of the notables from that. So, like I said, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. And speaking of every day, thank you to the everydayers. I appreciate you. Without you, this stuff would not happen. So we are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So, welcome aboard, Nikhil Jefferson. Okay, this commitment is huge because it adds much needed depth to a pretty thin defensive line room. Not saying it's thin on talent, just thin on bodies, because like you get a couple injuries away, things are going to get kind of tricky down there. So what Nikhil Jefferson does and what this commitment does is it allows you that one more person to throw into the rotation. Because when you look at Clark Lea's defense, and I watched some of the stuff against Notre Dame, or when he was with Notre Dame, against like Michigan, against Georgia, against USC, some of the against Stanford. Like I saw the defensive line moving quite a bit, and when I say moving, like they're slanting gaps, they're twisting, they're playing games, they're doing some funky stuff, and I noticed that in order to do that, you have to have at least, if you're going to be an odd front team, which is 3 down linemen, I think if you're going to have that, you've got to have 6 guys that can roll, that can play legitimately, because you need 2 hockey substitution patterns. So you need 2 full lines to come in and roll. Now you're probably going to have different personnel packages, like your nickel package is probably going to feature 2 defensive linemen and 2 defensive ends, which will come from another room. But you know, you'll go from 3 to just 2. So that's good. But you know, with Nikhil Jefferson, just having his presence there gives you somebody that could play as a zero nose, which means you're head up of the center. You can play as a 4 technique, which is head up of the tackle, or you can play as a 1 or a 3, which is inside shade or outside shade of your guard. And these guys move their alignment some. They shift over. Sometimes they shift pre-snap. Like I think you're gonna see them do a good bit of things. That's my prediction. I don't know. I won't know that for sure until I really kind of just see him in the spring and kind of see what Clark Lee is thinking and kind of seeing how aligned with the defenses he ran at Notre Dame were. But scheme wise, like that's what you're going to do. And to get Nikhil Jefferson, like I think that's a perfect scheme fit for what you're doing, because like you need a guy that can move a little bit. Now he's got some size to him, but you need a guy that can move. And if you don't have a guy that can move, then you're really like, what are you really doing? You're not really doing much of anything. You're kind of just wasting your time a little bit. And if you waste your time, like you're just going to, like if you can't move quickly and strongly, you're just going to, like, if you slant, you're just going to get shoved down the line and the back's going to make a cut and you're going to be irrelevant. So what I think that Nikhil Jefferson adds, and when he gets into this system with Coach Steiner, who I'm going to talk about at some point, he's doing a heck of a job, man. He delivered this speech that had me ready to run through a brick wall. But he, he'll get in that program a little bit. He'll develop his even better lateral quickness. He'll be able to bend a little bit better. He'll be able to use his leverage a little bit better. His punch will be even stronger. But I think he brings a lot of that from Berkeley Prep down in Tampa. I think he brings a lot of that to the table to start. Like, he has a really good first step. He gets across the line of scrimmage. He gets into you as an offensive guard. He gets into you pretty quick. Now, if you go search his highlights, if you watch his highlights from his profile, his very first clip, I'm gonna describe it to you. When he comes off, right? He comes off low. He is at the snap of the ball. He's already got his hands on the outside shoulder. The guard has just gotten out of his stance and he is in his chest almost. He is ready to dip and rip. So first step, he is almost there. Second, third step, he's already begun his rip. And then he just, from there, the guard had no chance. Like, he got under him and the guard was just playing catch up the whole time, because by the time he got set and was able to react, he was already even with him and had the upper hand. So that's the kind of things that he can do from a pass rush, from an interior pass rush, is be able to put pressure on a guard to set quickly, which will oftentimes lead to either completely missing him or holding calls. And when you have quick defensive linemen, I'm telling you, if you ask any offensive lineman, the low quick ones are the worst to block, because you have no time to react and you have to get down there, because most of these guards are 6'5" and above. Some of them, some maybe 6'3", but like, you're not getting much below 6'3" out of the guard position in this league. So like, he's going to be able to get under a lot of people, and he's going to be very, very pesky. So I like this. I think this is a great addition for this defense. And, just again, some of the elements he brings, like in the special teams units and stuff, this is going to allow a little bit more liberal substitutions for the defense at the defensive line position. I think this is going to allow you the freedom to get in different packages where you might have some 4-down and some 3-down stuff, where you move, you put them, you get in some stuff where you shift them over into onto a shade in the center and force the center to make an athletic play, like things like that, where you use his athleticism against your opponent. So exciting. Welcome aboard, Nikhil Jefferson. He will make a big, big difference in a room that really desperately needs it, because again, it's not the most talented in the world. It is not the deepest room in the world, but they're going to flat get after it. They perform well. They were good last year. A bunch of guys that you probably never heard of, but they were good last year, and they're going to get even better with these commits they have coming in. These freshmen, I think, are going to come in and add a much needed boost to this unit, including Nikhil Jefferson. So we're gonna, I'll talk kind of more about how this defensive line will wreak havoc as the spring goes. But this is that's a storyline in the spring. Like, how is this defensive line going to react to a complete shift in scheme, and how are they going to manage that? So again, very, very exciting. But before we transition, I want to talk about another commit. He's not a full scholarship commit, but he did commit on a preferred walk-on deal. His name is Jamizel Lassiter. He is a slot receiver from Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts. Now, why am I talking about a preferred walk-on? Because, well, let's face it, I watched his senior highlights because I was intrigued. Like, okay, preferred walk-on. Let's kind of see what that looks like at Vanderbilt. Like, a preferred walk-on at Georgia may be a guy that could be all conference in the FCS level, but just wanted to play SEC ball. This guy is no different. I think, when you watch his highlights, if you look him up, Jamizel Lassiter from Deerfield Academy. What jumps out at the page is, obviously I can see why he probably didn't get a lot of Power 5 offers, because his stature is not one that Power 5 teams are probably interested in, which I think sometimes gets a little bit overrated as a stat. But like, what jumps out at me is just his speed and how just difficult it is to touch it, to tackle him. Like you can't, like, and I get it. He's playing Massachusetts private school football. So like some of the talent he's playing against may or may not be able to handle him or anybody even close to him. But you can tell, like, he really kind of jumps off the page. His quickness is just outstanding. He makes a cut and he just goes, man. He is, I don't know that his top end speed is elite, but how fast he can get to his top end is probably the more impressive part, and that's called acceleration. How quickly can you get to your top end? And I think his acceleration is pretty good. And I think that'll make him dangerous in special teams on these coverage teams. You could look at him as a potential return guy. Like there's some clips of him returning a punt. Like there's one clip about, if you watch his highlights, about 1 minute 50 seconds in, he returns a punt, and it looks like 2 or 3 times he's going to go down, but like he just puts his hand on the ground and just casually just pops right back up. Like the balance that he has is tremendous. And he plays a lot in the slot. So he has a good bit of snaps, probably I would say the majority of his snaps, which I don't know the total number, but like he is, he plays in the slot primarily. He catches screens. He can block really well. He catches like intermediate stuff over the middle. He's just a solid wide receiver and somebody that, the importance of having him. Now you look at this receiver room, you got a good crop of freshmen coming in. Okay. Including him, I guess I'll include him, but you got a good crop of freshmen, not including him. You got a couple transfer guys that have a chip on their shoulder, but like we all know that wide receivers like to do this thing called pull their hamstrings. And so like you get a couple injuries away. Like I think this guy could play. I'm not saying he's not going to be a guy that jumps out as a day one starter where he's like out of the gates, like, man, this guy's like can't miss prospect, but like he's sitting in a position to where he can earn some playing time. And I can all but guarantee that he's going to get some looks on special teams. I think he's going to be on some coverage units. He's going to be a dark horse for the return jobs. He's going to be a nightmare on scout team. And I think that's going to be great for the scout team. With this schedule that's top 20 hardest in the country, you need guys like this to simulate the opposing teams. And he's going to be able to do a good job of it. He's going to challenge these DBs. He's going to make sure the defense is really, really good and set up really good. And so he's going to get some opportunities in that regard. He's going to put himself in line to get a full scholarship should somebody defect after spring or during summer camp or even into next season, because we all know roster attrition is a thing, especially in the transfer portal era. So he's sitting in a good spot. So all he's got to do is come in and perform like he's performing on these highlights, where he's physical, he's running good routes, you can't really tackle him. He's difficult to bring down. He's sure-handed. He understands where openings are. He understands how to use his size or lack thereof as an advantage and not a disadvantage. So I'm excited to kind of see what happens with this one. My predictions are, after this year, he could be somebody that's on full scholarship because he's a good, solid return guy, and because he is somebody that can get after it in special teams and possibly be a good jet sweep guy and a quick screen guy. So Nikhil Jefferson, welcome aboard. James L. Lassiter, welcome aboard. And hope you two guys enter Commodore Nation and make a huge impact and make the huge impact that I think and know you will. So when we come back, though, the men's team, they get a much, much needed win. It is phenomenal, dude. They beat Missouri. We'll talk about that and what happened And when we get back, we'll do that. Stay tuned. All right. This episode is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. That's right. When you're hiring for small businesses, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Its success allows access. Well, it gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Let that sink in. So LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, welcome back. Segment number 2 of the Locked On Vandy podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you follow us on social media and wherever you get your podcast. Like and subscribe at Locked On Vandy, X, and Instagram. Thank you to the everydayers. Again, I can't thank you guys enough. Michael Specs, Kurt Page, Scotty Derrick. Some of these others are starting to pop up as everydayers. I'm getting closer and closer to 200, and that's before baseball season, right? Baseball season's right around the corner. Let's get up to 300 by the end of baseball season. Let's do that. So I'm challenging you, Commodore Nation, 300, not 200, 300 subscribers by the end of baseball season, which is the start of summer. And then I want to go into football season with 500. And by the end of the calendar year, I want to reach that magical number of 1,000. So those are my goals. In order to get there, it takes you guys. So spread the word, like the show, all that good stuff. So basketball, man, men's hoop gets their first win of the season. Ezra Mannion and Tyron Lawrence lead the way. Them and two others, that would be Isaiah West and, let's just say 3 of the 4 that combined for or that had double-digit performances. 3 of them were guards, and those 3 guards combined for 43 points. All right, the story of this 68-61 victory was the guard play. Tyron Lawrence and Ezra Mannion were absolutely brilliant. They were just – it just seemed like they were finally in sync. Shots were going down. They were tacking the rim, all that good stuff. And next thing you know, it's victorious. The thing that's been plaguing Vanderbilt actually went in their favor this time around. They out-rebounded Missouri 42-31. They made 15 free throws. And, and again, the guard play was outstanding. So they won't go winless in conference, which is a good thing. But, I think having this win, having them face some adversity still down the stretch was good. That this might help them down the road. Now, I don't know what that means, as far as what's next. But again, they needed that one pretty bad because confidence was at an all-time low. And when you're 0 for 7 to start the conference play, and you have not won since the calendar flipped over to 2024, it's not good, man. And that sticks with you. That funk just kind of stays with you, and it's not very good. So when you kind of take a peek at things, that's one thing you have to look at. Like, what I'm interested to see in the weekday game is how does this is the guiding question here, and how does this win carry over into your next games, right? Because honestly, this one won't mean jack diddly do if you go out and have another stinker. Okay. If your guards can't carry you, which, sometimes that happens, but you got to keep this up each and every game now. If you want this to truly mean something, how do you follow it up? Right. Now, it's always fun to win. And, but I think we have to it's exciting. It's good. It feels good. It feels good as a Vandy fan to say, okay, we got one right now. We can, because you feel bad for Tyra Lawrence. You feel bad, especially for Ezra Mannion, who has been absolutely brilliant in all of these losses. And, but just the overall product has been so abysmal that you just wondered if they were ever going to get back and actually win one. So, but they finally won one. And unfortunately, it was a team that was also winless in conference. So they're not all of a sudden going to start beating teams now. But they didn't quit. They finally played with some confidence. They finally looked like a team that was in sync a little bit. And those are good things. Maybe that's what carries them. But they still weren't very good from behind the arc, which means they probably still weren't creating good shots for themselves. Defensively, I think they're still giving up too many runs, and that's going to be dangerous down the stretch. So for them to be able to carry it over, that's going to have to be something that is built upon. And the communication thing mostly has got to be something that is you just got to keep pressing on, and you got to keep going. So it doesn't get any easier. Tuesday night, they welcome Kentucky. So Kentucky is top 10 in the country. Kentucky is Kentucky. So that game's certainly not going to get any easier. Josiah Jordan-James is, let's just say he's on fire. And he's on fire. So hopefully it doesn't turn into the cat house in Memorial Gym. I can't say Catlanta because it's not in Atlanta, but like that kind of situation. The Tennessee game situation where now it's all blue. So if you want to make a difference, if you want to support this team, or just for the sheer fact of keeping Vanderbilt out of the state, out of the arena, or not Vanderbilt, you want Vanderbilt in the arena, but keeping Kentucky fans out of the arena, show up just for the sheer fact that you don't want to turn on the TV and see a sea of blue taking over your arena, which I know some of you think that's the way to get through to this AD. And that might be a good strategy, but still, you don't really want to see it though. I don't know. But this team won, and give them some love. Give them some love. Congratulations to Vanderbilt basketball. So when we come back, we're going to finish up with some baseball. Baseball's right around the corner. Scrimmages are in full swing, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. All right. We are also presented by FanDuel. So happy Super Bowl to all those who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets, right? For me, I love the whole ambiance. So I love the game. I love the party when there is one. I love the food. There's always really good appetizers and dips and things. The commercials are always top notch. And of course, making those Super Bowl prop bets, that's always a lot of fun too, because you can do so many things like anytime touchdowns, yards, receptions, what color the Gatorade's going to be, over under the national championship, who wins the coin flip, and what is it, heads or tails, right? They have so many ways for you to end the season with a W, or maybe 2 or 3. So not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. So new customers, if you join today, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up here. We are going to talk about baseball. That's right. You heard it. Baseball. Carter Holton, man. I said it in the open. He must have listened to Friday's episode. And how? Because he went out and pitched an absolute gem for the baseball team. He had 3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks. He did hit one person, so I guess that counts as a walk. But he struck out 5, and he had a pickoff. So that's 33 pitches. He had 22 of those were strikes, and a stat that they keep up with there is whiffs, which means 6 swings and misses. So he seems to be dialed in. Dukanovic also, he pitched 1 2/3 innings. He gave up a hit, he gave up a run, had 3 walks. He hit 1 batter, he struck out 3. Green pitched 3 hits, no runs, no walks, no Ks. But he did throw 28 strikes, so he had a little bit of he had a little bit of command there. Ginther, McIlvain pitched 2 innings, gave up a hit, had a walk, struck out 2. 20 strikes on 31 pitches. So the pitching looked pretty solid. But Holton's the one who stood out, man. 5 strikeouts, just absolutely dealing, man. And I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. I think he's going to have a nice run at the Sunday starting job. But you look at some of these hitters too. Like I think some of these things are going to come into play. Now, some of these scrimmage stats may be like you're going to see these hitters like over. But then you have to realize that, you have to realize this. These pitchers are pretty daggum good. So anytime you're facing your own guys, it's going to be tough, right? Like Vastine went 0 for 4. Wolfie went 0 for 1. Rogers went 0 for 1. You had Leniev 0 for 3. Ossenfort 0 for 2 with a strikeout. Leniev was 0 for 3 with a strikeout. He had 4 at bats because he had a walk. Koziel went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Humphrey went 0 for 2. He had a walk and got picked off. Espinal had a homer, though. He had a dinger. That's right. He had a dinger. He was like Alfred D'Elia. He just hits dingers, man. But no, in all seriousness, like he is it's a lot of fun, man, to see these baseball stats. I think baseball season is going to be outstanding. I think when you look at it, you have a really, really good lineup and an even better pitching staff. And when it comes to playing postseason baseball, you hit to get there, and then you pitch to win. Pitching always wins, right? Pitching always wins. So, I'm excited about that. I am, I'm curious to see how and what this rotation stuff is going to look like. If you want to look at the others, Aria Garrison is a godsend for Vanderbilt baseball coverage. Love what she does. Bryce Cunningham, 4 innings pitched. He had 3 strikeouts, 1 hit, no runs, and a walk. 66% strikes. The aforementioned Carter Holton, I already told you his stats. Grayson Carter, 3 innings pitched, gave up 2 hits, gave up 1 run, 3 strikeouts, and a walk. Devin Futrell had 2 2/3 with a hit, a run, and 1 strikeout, no walks, but threw 76% strikes. So he had the highest strike percentage. Carter Holton looked, as far as striking guys out and not giving up hits, he looked the best over this past weekend. So those are your weekend rotation guys. Looks like Carter Holton has taken the lead as far as the Sunday spot goes. So stay tuned for that battle. And thank you, Aria Garrison, at Aria_Garrison on X. You can follow her. So I'm reacting to I'm not breaking this news. I'm giving her credit for finding the information. I'm just reacting to the great information that she's provided and saying that my prediction based on what she's provided is that Carter Holton is going to be it looks like he's got command of that weekend Sunday starter role. And I think he'll end up there. So, but anyway, that's going to do it for us here on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for listening. Thank you to the everydayers for all the support that you give. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you tune in to Locked On SEC. Make that your next listen. Anchor down.